Joined right now by two members of the U.S. Congress, Florida Democrat Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Texas Republican Michael McCaul. Let me start with Congressman McCaul. Sir, do you think it would be good for the Congress, your House, a member of the House, should there be a vote right now, up or down, on both the Democratic plan on tax cuts and the Republican plan on tax cuts? Both votes right away.
Absolutely. I think the American people need to know where their elected representatives stand on this issue. And yet what the Democrats are trying to do is punt and kick the can down the road until after the election and then find out where they stand on this position. I think we ought to vote on it now.
Both alternatives. Let me ask you, Congressman Wasserman Schultz, should the Congress vote now on either the Democratic plan, which is tax cuts for everybody below $250 a year, or not for the ones above, and also a Republican alternative, which is tax cuts for everybody down the road? Should they have that vote in the Congress?
Sure. We would love to have that vote.
Well, why don't you have it?
Because the Republicans won't allow it in the Senate. Because
no, but why don't you have it? No, you're in the House.
Because they've been holding because we're not going to. What we're focused on is making sure that we can extend the tax cuts for the middle class and working families, Chris. If we know that the Republicans are going to hold those tax cuts hostage and hold out for the wealthiest, the tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans, then we have members all across this country that are in tough elections, and the Republicans would like nothing more than to pounce on them and accuse them of raising taxes.
Speaker Pelosi can hold this vote today, or when we come back in session. Speaker Pelosi can hold this week before we adjourn if she wanted to. Her problem is she knows that a lot of Democrats don't support this agenda.
No, the problem is that you all are refusing to support simply an extension of the middle class tax cuts and holding those hostage in exchange for making sure that we can add $700 billion to the deficit to give the wealthiest Americans a tax break, which puts nothing back into the economy.
I want to ask you again, Congresswoman Schultz, Wasserman Schultz, if there were a vote on the Democratic plan, which is what you said for the middle class tax cuts up to $250,000 a year per family, and there was an alternative, a vote to recommit, a Republican vote to give it to everybody, would that be a fair way to look at this, to have both votes on the floor? Would that be fair?
That might be a fair way to do it, except that we don't know that there would only be one chamber that would take that vote, and it would leave a lot of members twisting in the wind, subject to ridiculous Republican accusations when it's them, particularly Republicans in the Senate, who are refusing to allow for that full vote to take place. So
let the American people's voice be heard. Let the American people's voice be heard.
That's right.
And let it be heard before we adjourn before the break.
Let's make sure that we can stop holding middle-class tax
Okay, let me ask
hostage.
you, Congressman, you've got the floor here, and you're on the offensive here, and you're winning the argument, I think, because you want to have the vote. But why doesn't the Republican Party in the Senate stop a filibuster and let there be a vote so that the voters can see up or down before the election where the two parties stand? Why is your party filibustering this in the Senate?
Well, I think they should. I think that we should have
filibuster against having a vote?
There we go.
I think we should have the vote in the House. I think Speaker Pelosi has a problem on her hands, and that is
no. I let you win the first round.
Don't support
I let you win the first round, Congressman McCaul. Here's the second round. Your leadership is filibustering this bill, so we'll never get to the president's desk. So it's all academic because of your party, right? Admit that.
It's not my leadership in the House that's doing that, and I think this needs to come to a vote.
So you don't know this guy, Mitch McConnell, huh? This guy. We should show a picture of Mitch McConnell so you can recognize him. No, if we could put a picture of a Mitch McConnell so you could say, yeah, I do know this guy. He's the leader of the Senate Republicans, and I've never called him up and said, Mitch, or Senator, I guess they like the title, why don't you let them vote over there so that we can get credit for cutting taxes for all Americans?
What they are going to stand up against would be a $3.8 trillion tax increase, the largest in American history, that would severely damage the economy at a time when we can least afford it. Hey, Debbie, I listen to you with all due respect. Listen to what I have to say. And there was a president by the name of John F. Kennedy that said, let's cut taxes to get the economy moving again. And it worked. And there was a president by the name of Reagan who did the same thing. There's a bipartisan economic formula for success. A $3.8 trillion tax increase is the wrong way to go for this country.
What kind of deficits do we get? I remember it well. We doubled the national debt under Ronald Reagan. So why do you think that's a good record?
You know, Kennedy said tax increases will not get the deficit and debt down, and it will not create jobs, because he knew that it kills jobs. And it seems to me that the party of Kennedy has gone far astray from his principles.
Well, he didn't get it through.
I would ask
that
the conservative Democrats join the Republicans in what President Kennedy stood for and get these tax cuts.
Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz, I want to understand this. So basically, the Senate won't let there be a vote. So this isn't going to go anywhere. So it's all academic, is what you're arguing. You can't.
Well, we're arguing. Excuse me, Mike. My turn now, please. So
I'll give you that.
What we're arguing is that, A, the Republicans have already had their turn at this. We've had these tax cuts in place since 2003, and that's what took us from a record surplus under President Clinton to a record deficit under President Bush. It sent our economy careening over a cliff, because on top of the record deficit spending, we also had Wall Street and almost no regulation run amok, sent the banking and financial services system into the tank, and now the Republicans are asking for the keys back. The choice on November 2nd is very clear. Democrats are saying that we want to make sure that we focus on our tax
cutting policy. The choice is really clear.
Excuse me, Mike, please let me finish.
I haven't met one small business owner that supports increasing taxes, which is what y'all want to do.
You interrupt.
And you're killing jobs out there.
Okay, let me tell you, Congressman, we do have a poll that supports Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz's position. Overwhelmingly, the American people think tax fairness requires that the top 2% not get this tax cut beyond next year. Polling proves that.
It's a straw man, because when you look at this $250,000 tax that they're talking about over that income level, what you're really talking about is a tax on small business owners.
No,
job
because you know how they define,
and you're penalizing those who create jobs,
small business?
And that's going to hurt the economy and the middle class.
With $26 billion in income,
that is
the way they define small business is
thank you, I think we know the situation right now. Thank you, Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
The issue's not revenue; it's spending, and we got to get spending under control.
To get our tax cut policy focused on the middle class,
not
the wealthiest Americans. Well, join us.
Congressman, what's the biggest thing we should cut?
I know. We need
Congressman, what's the biggest program we should eliminate? Federal program we should eliminate?
I think we should cancel all unspent stimulus.
What program?
What
program that the federal government spends money on? Name the program.
Freeze discretionary spending.
Give me the name of the agency.
The Wall Street Journal, if I can talk. The Wall Street Journal had a very good idea, and that is tie spending to the inflation rate minus 1%. If we did that, we could balance the budget in less than 10 years. And I think that's a really good idea. Everything's on the table.
What are you going to do to Medicare?
Everything is on the table.
Well, senior citizens in America should be very disturbed if you think everything's on the table.
Thank you, Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz. We know the fight over taxes is where it stands. Up next, Bill Maher. By the